On the iHeartRadio app.
I'm Wayne Resnick, sitting in for John, who's on a little summer vacation. And we're going to bring on Aaron Cohen. Used to be with Israeli Special Operations. He's a law enforcement trainer. He's a law enforcement and counterterrorism analyst. He did for a time have a show right here on KFI. So welcome back to KFI, Aaron. And why don't you just give us your initial thoughts on how somebody was able to shoot at former President Donald Trump?
Well, it's good to be on. I can tell you that, there's just some disturbing failures in the Secret Service detail at the Butler rally. I'll start with disastrous advanced planning. So the way the Secret Service works is they work on what's called consensus rings. It's a multi-layered setup to create what's called a security bubble. And that means it would take a multi-failure event in order for someone to be able to kill the president. So one of the rings would be that immediate protection detail, those agents you saw jumping on President Trump after those shots were fired. Then there's a ring of agents just outside that who control the access a little bit further out. And then there's an outer perimeter ring, which involves local law enforcement and federal authorities. You've got detection dogs, and you've got that counter sniper team, who are the guys who actually put down the shooter and neutralized him. And then you have what's called, and this would be the fourth ring, which is the advanced teams or the intelligence element. And those teams will go in sometimes weeks in advance, and they'll survey and secure locations before the president ever arrives. And their job is to essentially identify potential risks and then close off those areas in order to sterilize that entire operation. And so I believe the failure was in that advanced work, that preparation work. And the good security, the best security lives in being able to prevent the attack from ever happening. And so for whatever reason, and these Secret Service agents are trained in-house, and so whatever reason the SAC or the special agent in charge, whoever was responsible for building that particular security plan, and let me say this, every security operation is custom designed. The president, former presidents, they're constantly on the move and they travel to different places. Every security apparatus has to be custom designed, like a custom Harley. You're building this thing from the ground up. So whoever was responsible for designing that particular operation failed in the advanced planning stages, because the fact that somebody was allowed to get up on that building and that people in the crowd, everyone's seen the footage, were saying, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. That means that those particular buildings, which were within shooting eyesight of the president's podium, hitting the president, was not within that security containment bubble. So that's the first and biggest major failure. That's why President Trump was shot in the ear. But there's other parts to this also that red flag very, very hard with me. There was a very chaotic vehicle extraction. I don't know if you remember that. When they had him and they were moving him to that armored SUV.
Yes.
There were multiple agents out there. And I'm not pointing my finger at the females here. I work in law enforcement. I serve as a lieutenant with a sheriff's department as a reservist. I've done it for 16 years. Still one of my favorite jobs, outside of, doing media and what I'm doing now. And I can tell you, I have no problem with women in law enforcement, but the standards need to be the same. And what I saw was a couple of unfit agents, one who happened to be a woman, struggling to reholster her firearm because she was unable to handle the massive chemical dump of hormones and stress, including epinephrine, cortisol, adrenaline. You know what happens when we get nervous. So imagine taking that, expanding it times 1,000%, and their ability to be able to function under that massive chemical dump was disastrous, which means that the training at the Secret Service has plummeted because that would be part of that inner ring. Also, some of those women were too small, in my opinion, to physically cover Trump. And that's the first job of those agents, is to create a human shield, drop him down to the ground, and catch bullets with their body. Literally, that's the first phase of that response. And they were struggling. You know, Donald, what is he, 6'4", 6'5"? He's a big dude. So they were struggling there. They didn't get him off that stage very quickly, but when they got him to that armored vehicle, all I saw was a soup sandwich. Agents running around, female agent grossly out of shape, unable to reholster her firearm. Anyone can see it. I've spoken to it numerous times on Fox News. And that vehicle hanging around for way too long, and a lot of people standing around trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing, which means that their training is not behavioral based. And what I mean by that is they haven't been soaked properly in the type of high threat response scenarios in their training to be able to get them to be more comfortable functioning under those very high levels of stress. And with protection operations, like with the Secret Service, you only have one job. So your job is to go from 0 to 120 and be very comfortable in that space. The problem is that in the protection business, and the Secret Service was always known as a very elite agency, which has been stained, unfortunately, and I think everyone can see why. And it's going to take years for them to recover from this black eye. I believe that the DEI, or that diversity and inclusion, that those politics, I believe, are part of the reason here. And they bled into this agency, which is already malnourished in terms of funding for quite some time. And the Secret Service director had publicly put out a statement and was recently just deleted from the Secret Service page, that her goal was to get a 30% floating female staffing level. Now, I'm fine with women. Women can do everything just as good as men. In fact, some of the most dangerous snipers we have in Israel are women. Some of our most dangerous spies are women. There's places women can get into, and I think they're smarter than men. Our El Al screeners in Israel, our federal-grade behavioral profilers, are women because they can detect lies better than men. They're born with that innate connection to be able to communicate non-verbally with a child. So they've got talents that we'll never have. But we did not see that on that day. We didn't see that at the Butler rally. It was a gross failure, and I believe it was politically bled, and it's become bloated. And that's why I think that Trump is missing a piece of his ear. And the only reason why he's not dead, in Hebrew we say, Elohim shamar alav. God was looking down on him. He just happened to turn his head to the right, and that round grazed his ear. But sniping doesn't work in a two-dimensional world. It works in a three-dimensional world. So
all right, Aaron,
with his head, that would have gone through that ear, and he would have been gone.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much for that expertise. I suspect that at these congressional hearings that are coming up, that some of these issues that you spoke of will be explored in great detail. Aaron Cohen, thank you.